So I was asked to go through how I made a pulley rig that I was going to use when I was targeting rays. So here we go. I'll start off just by going through the bits we need to make the rig. So for the rig body, I have some 60-pound Xenon line there, that's Tronics Pro. For the hook snood, I've got 58-pound blackout. And we need some rig gum. Size 1 swivels, you can get these in max packs. Pulley beads. Some size 4.0 octopus circle hooks. These are Tronics Pro T25 octopus circle hooks. And I have a short shank bait hook. These are really good hooks when you want to stick a sand eel on, because they're quite a small gate for their size. These are 3.0, but quite a small gate, but they've got a really strong wire, so it's a nice strong hook when you're after a bigger fish. And I've got a tiny little piece of tube. I'll go through that a little bit more in a moment. 2 black beads, 5mm, and a Gemini splashdown. So how do we make the rig body? Well, I've got one of my size 1 swivels, and I've got the 60-pound rig body, and I'm going to start off by tying that swivel on. This is going to be the top of our rig, the bit that the snood's going to attach to, and I'm tying a 3-turn uni knot. Nice and moist, gently pull it down. Nice firm pull to get that tight. And I'll just trim the end there, leave a little bit of a tag end. And now I want this to be a 3-foot rig, so I have here a very long ruler, and I'm going to measure out 3 foot 5 inches of line for the rig body. And the reason I'm giving an extra 5 inches to that is to allow for the tying the knot and a tiny little bit of slack. So 3 foot 5, and I'll just cut that off. So we're done with the rig body line, and the first thing I'm going to thread on is one of the black beads, one of my 5mm black beads going on. Then we have the pulley bead and the other black bead. And then to the bottom of the rig, I get my splashdown, and I'm going to tie that on again with another 3-turn uni knot. Make sure that's nice and neat. Trim the end. Now, I don't know if you can quite see my ruler here. I'm going to measure this now to see how long the rig body is, and that's coming out at 3 feet 2 inches. So that's just about perfect. Okay, so now we're going to look at how we're going to make the hook snood, and I'm going to start with the size 1 swivel that I tied onto the top of the rig body, and we're going to get our 58-pound blackout line. And I'm going to tie a 3-turn uni knot. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that's nice and moist. A really good pull. Trim the end. So one thing about this blackout line is it does tie really nice, neat little knots. So if you can just about see that there, the blackout at the top here. A pretty small 3-turn uni knot that. And now to measure out the hook length, I don't need to use my ruler. I'm going to slide the pulley bead up to that swivel. I'm going to hold that there with just a little tiny gap, and I'm going to run that down the rig body until I get to the splashdown there, and I'm going to cut it just about 1 inch above where that splashdown is. So there we go, we've cut that. So that's now the right length for the rig body that I made already. And I'm just going to secure the end of my blackout line in place with a hairband. That stops that peeling off. And now we are left with putting the hooks on. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my hook snood, and onto the end of that I'm going to slide this little piece of tube, and I cut that piece of tube so that it was just slightly shorter than the shank of this hook, the octopus hook that I'm going to use at the top of my pennel. Okay. And then we slide the line through the eye of the octopus hook, and then we're going to take my short shank bait hook and I'm going to tie that on with yet another 3-turn uni knot. There you go. Trim that end. Now the next thing I'm going to do is get my rig gum, and above the hooks and above that piece of tube I'm going to tie a stop knot. Just untangle the line a little bit here. So there we are on the hook snood. I'll go quite a long way up, and I'm going to tie a 5-turn stop knot. Five, and pull those ends in opposite directions and gets the knot quite snug. I don't want this one to be too snug though, because I don't want it to fit through the eye of the hook at the top of the pennel. So trim those down. I'll just leave that stop knot there for a moment. And now we're going to do the fiddly part. So I want to tie a stop knot to hold this hook on the line, because that helps keep it in position to provide resistance when the hook bites, when the fish bites. So we're going to get our rig gum, hold that against the hook and the snood. I'm holding the eye of the hook in my fingers, wrap that round, and I think I'll just do 4 turns here because it's a little bit fiddly. 3, and then gently pull that until it's nearly tight, and then give it a really good tug. There we go. Oops, over pulled that. I'll try tying that again. Sometimes that can happen with rig gum. You pull it a bit too hard, you don't know your own strength, and it snaps. Not to worry, we'll do that again. 1, that's 4 turns. A nice pull. There we go. So that's now nice and tight around the hook, and that's just going to help stop that hook sliding on the snood, but I'll still be able to move it to position it in the right place for the bait when I put that on there. So trim that end and that end, and now back to this little piece of red tube. I'm going to slide that down, and I'll just moisten that a little bit to give it a bit of lubrication and help that tube slide onto the hook. There we go. So now there we have the top hook of the pennel with a rig up stop and then a little bit of tube, and that helps hold that hook in place. And this other stop knot I tied earlier, I'm going to now slide this down and position this just above that hook, and those 2 stop knots and that little bit of tube are going to help hold that hook nice and tightly in place, so that if the fish bites and it pulls, then it's going to have a little bit more resistance than if I just twisted the line around the hook like some people do. This is just my way of doing it. Other people prefer to just twist the line around the hook. So we've made our rig body, and we've tied our hooks on the snood and got that top hook of the pennel attached nicely in place. The question is, did we cut everything the right length? So I'll put my hook in the splashdown there, and work our way along the rig body to the top, to the pulley bead, and you might just be able to see there I've got about an inch of line between my pulley bead and the swivel, so that's just about perfect. So there we go. There is the pulley rig.